is a graduate student at FSU, in fact one of our very best graduate students, and he's worked with me on this particular project along with a number of other people. And so Joe's going to be putting some slides on that will help you sort of visualize some of the things that I want to share with you. And one of those has to do with the default rate. And this slide looks at the default rate of housing over an extended period of time. That's essentially the rate in which people are 90 days behind in terms of their payments is considered a default. And if you look at that during the 80s and 90s, it was relatively stable. Didn't maybe got up around 2%, but it was roughly around 2% for most all of that period, on up through mid-year 2006, at which time it shot up very substantially to about 5%. And if you looked at the sort of related thing, the foreclosure rate, it has a similar kind of pattern. Very low during the 80s and 90s, on through about 2005 and up into mid-year 2006, at which point it also shoots up. Well, why did this happen? Well, to a large extent, there are really four underlying factors on it, and I want to, and the four underlying factors about why that housing rate shot up are really, first of all, regulations that essentially destroyed the conventional loan standards. And secondly, Fed policy during 2002 to 2004 that resulted for a prolonged period of time extremely low interest rates. And it had a secondary effect leading to an increase in variable rate mortgages, which we'll look at in a moment. And thirdly, the increased leverage, which was related to a regulation that took place in April of 2004, which influenced the ability of mortgage banks to leverage themselves, leverage their capital by a larger amount. And finally, a sort of increase in the indebtedness of American people over a long period of time, going back to the mid-1980s. Now, I want to kind of quickly look at each of these four factors and think about why they occurred. The major underlying factors, and when the when the loan standards started changing, was during the mid-1990s. If you were going to take out a loan in the early 1990s, most loans during that period were conventional rate loans. You would have had to make a 20% down payment, and you would have paid. It would have been a fixed interest rate loan. By the early part of the 21st century, by 2000 and 2001, lending standards had changed very dramatically. And one reason, a big reason why they changed, were the regulations imposed by HUD in 1995. They're oftentimes referred to as the 1995 regulations, which mandated that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac would extend, were required to extend additional loans to low and moderate income people, that is to say, people with income below the